Hey everyone, David here, going over my week 7 applying the tools. Two of my tools happen to be Screencast-O-Matic, which is how I'm talking to you right now, and also Google Slides, which you are on if you're watching this screencast. So I kind of thought the best way for me to talk about and show how I would use these two tools is to actually model it and do a screencast of me going over this Google Slides presentation, which is exactly what I would do for the students. So anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, diving into what this project would be that I'd be doing with the students. I'm not in the classroom right now, so I kind of picked this at random for a grade I'm hoping to end up in, 4th grade. The idea here, this standard, is that the students are comparing and contrasting a story from different points of view, so the difference between a first person and a third person narration. So we together in class would read a short story, third person narration. I picked Yertle the Turtle for this example. The students would then, afterwards, the actual assignment is that they are identifying characteristics about both Yertle and Mac, the two main characters of the story. But then the main assignment is that they are rewriting the story, not from third-person narration, as the story is told by Dr. Seuss, but instead rewriting it first-person. They would be paired up, so one person would rewrite the story from Yertle's perspective, one person would rewrite the story from Mac's perspective. They would have to do this collaboratively. You might be able to guess what one of my next tools is going to be. Anyway, after that, they are going to compare and contrast their two stories. They're going to not only their stories against each other, but also their stories against the original, which is a third-person narration. So to do this, this is going to be a lot of independent work. Once they're up and running, they're going to be working independently a lot, in class time or at home with their partner. So that kind of brings me to my first two tools, which work together. You can kind of call them Tool 1A and 1B, even though they're two different tools. They're working together to kind of create in-depth interactive instructions for the students that they can go and reference at any time. The first, obviously, Screencast-O-Matic, and then the second, Google Slides. So what I would be doing is making a Google Slides presentation that walks through the entire assignment, has examples, has references, has links. They can go back and reread the story in Google Slides. They can go to a YouTube video. Anyway, it's just very in-depth Google Slides. Gives them everything they might need in just one document, more than just like an actual printed handout instructions would be able to provide. But this works really well in conjunction with doing this screencast. So what I would do is on one of the pages, just like you are viewing now, there would be me going over the Google Slides document, the Google Slides presentation, so they can have a little bit more assistance of understanding all the aspects of the assignment. That way, if they do have a question, it's probably answered in the screencast. Instead of having to wait until the next day to come talk to me in class. So anyway, that's the idea here, using Screencast-O-Matic and Google Slides to make a in-depth interactive instructions for an assignment that the students would be working primarily on their own. For the portions done in class, when we first get started, after we read the story, Yertle the Turtle, I would have the students take a Google Forms quiz. And this is just to make sure that they have a pretty good understanding of the story itself. It's not actually a quiz, though. I misspoke. It's a Google Forms survey. It would not be graded. This is just their opinion, and to be a little bit more open-ended. So here's an example of what that might look like. It's asking about the character. It's asking about their wants or their characteristics. It's just as they write on their own, it's just kind of have them better understand who the two characters are. So this question, pretty easy, is what do you think Yertle wants the most? Two of these answers I think are pretty, you can make a justification for. Power is probably what I would choose. He wants to be a mighty king. Respect, I think respect could also be, you can make an argument that he wants respect. Friendship and peace, I don't think are good answers to this. If you've read Yertle the Turtle, he certainly doesn't want friendship. He certainly doesn't want peace. So if I'm a student in the class and I'm one out of the 33 kids who picks friendship and the 32 other kids picked power, you might have to, it might help them kind of rethink their decision and say like, well, maybe, he didn't want friendship. So, the idea here is not to be graded. It's a little bit more open-ended. It's just to get the kids thinking about the characteristics of the story and of the characters, and seeing how the class kind of falls when the survey is taking place, to kind of maybe influence their decision if they're, maybe going down a path that might be incorrect. So anyway, the last tool I would use would be Google Docs, which you might have guessed, since they're going to be collaboratively writing. It'd be very similar to what we did in class with Mittens. I did an example of what this might look like. In fact, I'm actually going to switch over to Google Docs right now. So the idea here is that they're working collaboratively, but also independently. So here is the Yertle section. I did a section break right here for Mac. So they're going to be able to write their story independently, but on the same document as their partner. I did put 2 screenshots of what that would look like right here. So that way that, you know, they might have to take certain liberties with the story as it changes from first to third person. I'm sorry, from third person to first person, which obviously leads back to them understanding that standard. So, you know, they're able to make these decisions together as they work through their story. They're also able to check each other to make sure that, you know, their characters are acting appropriately compared to the story. So anyway, the idea is that they're each writing the events from one character's perspective, but the stories are linked together. So anyway, I think the best way to do that is with Google Docs. It can be done at home. It could be done in class. Anyway, we obviously we've worked with this with the Mitten story too. So I think that would work really well for this kind of assignment. Here are my references. Hope you found this interesting and beneficial, and I look forward to seeing all of your projects too. Bye bye.